I might add, 70% of commercial vehicles, 40% of buses, 80% of two-wheelers. So we are talking of almost 2 million charging stations, if I have my numbers right. And that's a mammoth task and a great opportunity as well. The question is, one, how are you gearing up as a company, but how are the state governments supporting this, this huge challenge that you face?
Yeah. So before I address this question, so it has to be addressed in the segment-wise, because the charging point or charging requirement for two-wheeler is not exactly the same for the bus or for the car. And efforts and the regulatory framework required is entirely different. But let me touch upon one important element which has recently been hogging a limelight in India. That's a discovery of a potential lithium reserve. And I think in the e-mobility discussions, this is important to be addressed and put the right perspective, because there are a lot of, misinformations or right informations. See, at the G3 exploration level, it says that 5.9 million ton of lithium reserve. And people claim that no, 5.9 may not be the true. Actual resource could be only 10% or 20% or 30%. Though globally, it is proven that at the G3 level, and if you go to the final resource level, generally 27% gets converted into the resource, which you can economically use it, right? But even if I take, let's say, 10% only, to be very, very conservative, so it means we are talking of close to around 0.6 million ton of lithium resource, which can be economically used in the electric mobility. What exactly does it mean? See, 1 ton of lithium will be able to electrify 100 cars of 40 kilowatt hour of battery, right? Because 1 kilowatt hour of a battery requires around 250 gram maximum of a lithium, right? So you will have 100, in 1 ton, you'll have 100 number of cars. So it means you're talking of around if you have a 0.6 million ton, then you are talking about around 60 million cars. Now, to understand in the right context, today, even despite having the long history of the ICE, the gross stock in India of the total car, gross stock, as on date, is close to around 40 million only. That's a gross stock. So even if you have economical reserves or resources of 10% of the potential resource, it is good enough to electrify your entire fleet of electric year on year, because this can be coupled with, supported by the recycling, which is already a mature technology on the lithium side. So this is just to give a perspective to the audience that they can take back as a informations which will be very, very useful in the deliberations. To answer you this question, I think I will address from the car and the bus segment, because two-wheelers, I believe, doesn't require a public charging infrastructure. This can be done, smaller size of battery can be done at the home, 15 ampere socket, you can do it. On the car, because any large format vehicles have a large size of battery, and you would require a quicker time to charge it. So you will be requiring a charging stations, particularly the fast charging stations. Again, taking back my data from the opening remarks, that 10 million, so 30% is 3 million. Now, out of that 3 million, 70% of the car would be owned by the people who will not have a dedicated parking. So they will be requiring the public charging stations, right? Because initially, those who are buying the electric, they are having the facilities of the dedicated parking. But once it becomes mainstream, then it will be, they will not be having the dedicated parking. We can see on the Delhi also. So now this 3 million, so in 70%, it's close to around 2 million cars would require a public charging. And generally with a 40 kilowatt of battery, they will be having a range of around 300 kilometers. So one charge, they can run 300 kilometers. So in average, you will be requiring charging only twice in a week. So every day, only 1/3 of the car would be coming for the charging and the public charging. So you are talking about 600,000 cars coming every day requiring a public charging. Now, if we assume a 10:1 ratio, 10 car is to 1 charging points, then you are talking about 60,000 charging points. And this 10, I am talking, considering Netherlands. Netherlands is considered to be the densest charging network. They have 10.9 or 11, cars per charging points. China had 6. So denser country require a denser kind of a network. So 10 is the optimum. Then you require 60,000 charging points, public charging points for the car. Today in India, we have close to around 5,000 charging points. So from here to next 8 years, I don't think it's not possible to build from 5,000 to 6,000 capabilities. Where the bottleneck lies is the electricity infrastructure. It's not the cost. As per the electricity framework, we require to pay a cost for the high tension connections. But the problem is the time taken by the distribution company in giving the connections. That's the challenge. There it is taking, 6 months, 4 months, 3 months time. That is hindering the expeditious deployment of the charging network. So I think that's the only issue where the government, if they start pooling all the resources, if that is addressed, expanding the network is not a problem.